That is Lisa Kenner, representing Van Dyke Resident Association, and she wishes to comment on item number 5. Ms. Kenner?
She made it. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
morning. I can read and look. Good morning. My name is Lisa Kenner. I'm the president of Van Dyke Resident Association. I've been a resident at Van Dyke for 56 years, so I'm telling my age. I'm here to say we was committed to ensure Canberra to build 101 units, building another Gaston Boulevard between Livonia Avenue and Dumont Avenue, next door to the oldest children's library in the United States. However, the agreement was that the land would be sold for $1.8 million, and the revenue will stay at Van Dyke houses, and the resident will be engaged to how the funds will be spent, utilized. However, we spoke on the issue that the playground is the most outdated play area in Brownsville. The play area has stayed for over 40 years. I was one of those kids that played on that same old playground. I call it Flintstones because that's made out of stone. And however, I spoke with the Canberra people, this going back 5 years ago when this plan came to us, and I told them, our kids are territorial. You got to update the play area so all the kids will know this is for everybody. It's not just for one group of kids. However, Van Dyke came up as the next generation. Nobody told the mayor or spoke about, well, Van Dyke's something's being built already. Now you want to come and build 225 units, and this is going to be 101 units. We already oversaturated, but this place where Campbell was building was low-income supportive housing. Now, during the course of the next gen, we found out that a mental clinic was going to be in the building. We was never told that 4 years ago. And some people say, well, you should have known. I shouldn't have known. That's not my field. So I think we should have been told this first, so we can know what was going on. I know that housing is needed, but I just want things to be right. Now, being that we're the next gen and Campbell want to come and build, I walked through Van Dyke yesterday, walked down the steps. The buildings are horrible. My thing is, on good faith, what's wrong with painting the hallway or painting a person's door or putting some tile to show, yeah, we're going to keep this up too, but we're going to build a story building. One building supposed to be 12 stories. If you talk about 225 units, you talk about 28 to 30-story building. That'd be one of the biggest buildings out there. So my thing is, in good faith, to show the people that you really care, you just don't come and paint and put beige. It's a beige wall, but they painted gray, spot gray. The elevator is spotted. I mean, Van Dyke would be 60 years old. Today's the 27th. 60 years, May the 27th, 1955. And the same tile is still on the same floor. You know, and everybody else said, we don't have no money, we don't have no money. But then you want us to give a part of the land for low income and supportive housing, then you want to turn around and take a part of the other land behind the community center and the parking lot and build a 30-story building, but not even trying to give nothing back to the people to show good faith. And that's what it's all about, good faith. I may be a little angry because you want to do this, but when I talk to Canberra and I seen they buildings, I went to their buildings, I can't go back on my word because that's all I got is my word. If you ain't got 2 cents in your pocket, you got your word. So I know it's going to go, I think about the kids that's going to move in there. That way, who knows, they may be the lawyers, the doctors, the next CEO, president of housing, but everybody needs a chance. And I didn't come down here to knock Canberra down. I just came to say that if you're doing all this at Van Dyke, come there and see what is needed. It's simple things. You know, nobody said, well, yeah, we want brand new stoves and stuff. People said, look, paint the hallways. Paint our doors. Doors haven't been painted in 25 years. And there's so much you can do about getting soap and water. So that's all I have to say. I thank Ms. Bird for inviting me. I have to go because I have another appointment. But I just ask you to think about the people that you're supposed to serve. And it ain't about me, it's about us. Thank you.
Vice Chair, that concludes our public comments portion, and we may proceed with the regular calendar. We'll start with a motion to adopt the minutes of our April meeting.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
We can move now to the general manager's report.
Defer to the Vice Chair first.
Sure, I'll just say thank you all for having me, and I'm happy to serve in Shola's position while she's out on maternity leave, and I want to congratulate an addition to the NYCHA family for Shola on May 21st. So the NYCHA family grows bigger as we speak, and I'm happy to serve in Shola's place. Big shoes to fill, but while she's out on maternity leave, I'm happy to be available. But I'll turn over to Michael.
Thank you,
Thank
Vice
you.
Chair. Well, along those lines, the first order of business, I believe, is continuing to report to the board and continuing to develop the kind of management tools that you've been used to through Shola's short absence while she's taking care of Isabel. And also making sure that as we start to roll out the various implementation strategies around NYCHA, that you, Vice Chair, and the entire board know the opportunities to serve as a face for the organization. Very briefly, I do want to kind of go through what has been done several times before. Last week, as we noted, we actually had the official kickoff of the Next Generation NYCHA release. And the interesting thing that came out of that, I believe, is a public recognition, too, that the mayor is saying that the NYCHA plan reflects the tough decisions necessary to deliver a stronger, more effective housing authority that can take care of its buildings and its people, and a recognition that at this moment, NYCHA is in the worst financial position that it has in its history. So the idea that we are in a crisis, and crises require extraordinary responses to that was one of the big takeaways. Again, under the heading of Safe, Clean, and Connected Communities, this is our overarching goal, and that overarching goal will be taken care of through the objectives of having long-term financial stability, developing operating processes and procedures that make us an effective property manager, rebuilding and redeveloping our stock, the very valuable housing resources that we are stewards of, and engaging residents in a way to make sure that there is connectivity in all the things that we do. Again, under the general directions, the funding, the operating, the rebuilding actually have a variety of specific implementation plans and strategies, and we'll be keeping the board abreast of progress toward meeting those goals. And each of those goals have an underlying commitment to engaging residents through the completion. And finally, just the reminder that why we are doing this in response to the mayor's recognition of the greatest financial crisis that the agency has had in its history. If we are successful, when we are successful in implementing the various strategies, we will be in the black. As opposed to the $98 million shortfall we are currently have on an operating side. And most importantly, as it relates to our capital, this will have a gigantic dent into responding to the capital needs of the agency. So that is a quick update on NYCHA's Next Gen and the rollout that was done by the mayor last week. I've asked Ray, I know that you've actually had a presentation not too long ago on Superstorm Sandy and the FEMA response, but there's several resolutions that's going to go before you today. I wanted to have a quick reminder for you and the public about where we are right now. A quick editorial is that I met with the first deputy mayor going through an overall where we are with the recovery citywide, and quiet as it kept, NYCHA is in a first position as a lead agency in taking care of the responses, and it was one of the things I wanted to share with the board, how proud I was of the NYCHA folks, particularly Ray and his crew, but relay that to you at the board, that the first deputy mayor was very proud of what we're at. With that.
Good morning. Ray Rubaro, Executive Vice President for Capital Projects. As the General Manager indicated, there are a number of Sandy-related items on the calendar today. I know there was lots of questions about where we stand with regards specifically to the Sandy funding. So he asked me to provide a quick update on where we stand today with regards to the Sandy recovery. There are really two work streams related to the Sandy recovery. There's the emergency work, our recovery immediately in the weeks and months immediately after Sandy, and that work is typically, we believe, will be covered through insurance proceeds. The graph in front of you represents our insurance coverage. As you can see there, we have $449 million of available insurance coverage, both through commercial policies and through national flood insurance policies. The national flood insurance policies have been paid out in full, $39 million. The insurers, the commercial policies, have agreed on $151 million of expenses, emergency expenses, and are currently disputing $69 million of emergency work, leaving the $190 million of still available commercial coverage through our insurance policies, and that's important when we roll into the permanent work. As I've indicated in the past, FEMA has approved a $3.2 billion program. However, they will not fund anything that is funded by insurance. So we have to immediately take off of the FEMA program whatever insurance proceeds are available that are paid out would not come from FEMA. And so that $190 million you see gets carried forward into this chart. On the permanent work, we are presuming that we will max out on our insurance proceeds, and that we will receive $190 million from our insurance carriers to help fund the permanent work, leaving just under $3.1 billion for the remainder of the program. $320 million of that is money that we have in hand from CDBG, that's HUD funding from the disaster recovery. That funding will be used as the local 10% match on the $3.2 billion of FEMA money. I think it's important to note on this particular chart that the FEMA 428 money is divided into two groups. There's money that is used specifically for repairs, and there is money that is used specifically for resiliency efforts, and it is split about 50-50 amongst those two funding categories. Kind of touched on this a little bit in terms of where we are, percentage of funding that we expect and for the different categories. As I said, NFIP is 100% funded already. We've received all of that money. CDBG money, the $320 million, we also have access to already. The commercial insurance there in the middle of the chart, we are at almost 60% of what we believe we're entitled to, received to date. And in the FEMA money, while we do not have that money, we have a commitment from FEMA on that funding, and we are going through the process of getting that money in the door now. That process is a multi-step process. You heard the press announcement about agreement on scope. About a year ago, we were negotiating with FEMA on a $1.8 billion program. We were successful in those negotiations and were able to bring that number up to, as I said, about $3.2 billion. The next step in that process, once we've come to agreement with FEMA, is all of the documentation behind it. The letters of undertaking get executed between us and FEMA. Then project worksheets with all the specific details are signed. And then at that point, we are free to enter into contracts. And then the state would advance us 50% of money as we advance contracts. And then provide additional advances of money as we expend the Sandy proceeds. All that to say, we are still on target to begin construction of the permanent recovery work this summer. Just an idea, you may have seen some of these slides, some of the work that this was something we had done about a year ago, some ideas of what we thought some of these structures would look like, some of the improvements would look like. We're now at a point, because everything is in design, we're at a point where we can actually start to show specific information on the developments that were impacted. This one in particular, Coney Island houses, you can see on the right side of that chart there, that smaller building with the green top is the new boiler room that will be raised above the floodplain. That boiler room location was actually selected by the residents as part of our resident engagement efforts. We gave multiple options on where that central boiler plant could be located, and the residents selected that particular location. The similar concept for Coney Island Site 1B, where that extension on the end of that building there is actually not only the new boiler room, but will house the emergency generator that will provide emergency backup power for the entire development. Same thing at Gravesend. You can see the smaller building on the left of that is actually a new electrical meter room to house all the electrical equipment raised and protected against floodwaters. And it's kind of dark in the shadows off on the right is the proposed new raised boiler room that will serve the Gravesend development. In addition, this is one of the concepts that we have been trying to propose at as many developments as possible. We are looking at installing rain screens at a number of our developments, literally changing the look and the feel of the developments by putting new facades on top of the brick or removing the brick and putting them on the building. And these will provide not only prevent water intrusion into the building, but will provide some thermal efficiency. Currently, as you know, we don't have exterior wall insulation on our building, so this will help towards that and reduce the heat load. That's it.
All right, thanks.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Are you using the same material on the outside that we used on the roofs? You know, that white material that we use on the roof to make it more, I guess, efficient?
Reflective.
Is that the same thing we're using to cover the facade of the building?
No, those facades, those two completely different products. Those facades are typically a metal panel that is attached to the outside of the building. The roofs consist of typically 4 plies of roofing material with a white stone on top of it.
Okay.
Although we are looking at installing, green roofs where possible, possible vegetation on the roofs to help with heating and cooling as well as water.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Commissioner, that completes the report of the general manager.
Great, thank you.
Start with item number 1.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian
morning.
Clark. Good morning. My name is Brian Clark. I'm the Senior Vice President of Operations for Property Management. Item 1, we're seeking the award of a requirement contract for bathtub wall enclosures. Authorization is requested to award this requirement contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, HD Supplies Facilities Maintenance LP, for the not to exceed amount of $1,717,600. This contract will support our maintenance operations. We only use this contract as needed. So if we need to make repair to a bathroom, and instead of replacing the tiles, we'll put in this these one-piece panel systems surrounds in place of that. So the panels would be drop shipped to the development, and then we would use them in the course of the repair. It's a 3-year requirement contract. We've been working with this firm since 2010 with no issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Good morning, Natalie Rivers, Chief Administrative Officer. On March 27, 2012, we entered into a 3-year contract with New York State Industries for the Disabled Incorporated, valued at $1,536,471 for the provision of janitorial, cleaning, and pest control services at our Long Island City facility. This contract carries 2 one-year renewal options to be exercised at NYCHA's sole discretion. Under the agreement, NYCHA provides nightly cleaning across the city. This includes caretakers, housing assistants, property managers, heating plant technicians, and more. The tentative agreement is consistent with the civilian labor pattern that was established in 2014, and the proposed contract, which is retroactive to December 15th of 2010, will expire on May 29th of 2018 and is valued at a net of 10.47%. The contract package includes salary adjustments stretched over a contract term of 7 years, 5 months, and 15 days, a one-time ratification bonus, an increase to the welfare fund, and an increase in employee safety shoe allowance. In addition, the contract acknowledges the disinvestment in public housing and calls for the establishment of a committee comprised of representatives from NYCHA, the city, Local 237, and other unions representing our employees. And the committee will work to increase available funding for NYCHA, improve cost effectiveness, efficiencies, and flexibilities in our operations, examine the feasibility of insourcing where there are savings or productivity, and improve the delivery of services to our residents. Thank you for your consideration.
The one-time bonus, signing bonus,
Yes.
that was contingent upon ratification of the contract?
That's
Did-
exactly right.
Did they vote on the contract so far?
Yes, they did vote. The vote came in this past Friday, and it was approved by 98% of their membership.
Oh, that's pretty high.
It's fantastic. Congratulations.
Okay.
Do we have copies of that memorandum of agreement?
Yes,
We do?
no. We will certainly get that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Natalie.
Good morning. I'm Bob Moreno, NYCHA's Chief Information Officer. This morning, we are requesting authorization to enter into an agreement with Dell Marketing LP to provide software licenses and support for all of our Microsoft software. Dell is the New York State Office of General Services authorized reseller of Microsoft products. This agreement covers support for desktop applications such as Outlook, as well as the Microsoft Office suite. And also we are requesting authorization to enter into a 3-year agreement with Dell Marketing LP not to exceed $3,871,389.78.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay.
Good morning. My name is Bill Crawley. I'm Vice President for Development. The Department for Development presents an resolution to authorize the conveyance of certain parcels of land, transfer development rights, and easements for the development of affordable housing at Van Dyke Houses to the CAMBA Housing Ventures Organization for the construction of 100 units of affordable housing.
Let me just piggyback, I want to thank, first of all, Lisa Kenna, who is the president of Van Dyke, for coming to, enter her comments. My understanding is that the monies that, the appraised value, we took less money, and that money is supposed to go toward Van Dyke Houses.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I think what she was saying is that, why can't we do something before the contract is in play to kind of show the residents that they're going to do something to kind of spruce up Van Dyke? You're going to be looking at this new building going up across the street. I've walked the buildings in Van Dyke Houses, and I've seen the tiles that she mentioned and the stairs going down. What can we do to kind of spruce that up a little bit in anticipation of this new facility going across the street, or wherever it's going to be located?
So one of the responses to that issue is the Van Dyke Houses is an OPMOM site, and the OPMOM program that you're aware of is designed to push decision-making authority at the level of the developments. And the assumption is that with that decision-making authority, with project-based budgeting and asset management, we'll get greater performance around the issues that Mrs. Kinner is raising. We're working with the folks in the operations department. As you know, a big part of the NextGen resident engagement process has been to identify performance issues at the developments to try to raise them as a major concern. So we've heard that very clearly from Mrs. Kinner and other residents at Van Dyke. The Department for Development, as you know, is not responsible for operations per se, but we are pushing and working collaboratively with our colleagues in the operations department to address those concerns. I hasten to add that one of the outcomes of the transaction will be that upon closing in June of this year, $1.8 million will be made available to make improvements at Van Dyke. And the assumption is that there'll be collaboration among the residents, Mrs. Kenner, operations, and probably capital to identify uses for those dollars. But your point is well taken.
But I guess, I mean, I think you're sort of answering the point that it's, as soon as there's a closing, the money will be available, and then it'll be up to the operating model, including the residents at the development, to decide how to spend the money and when it, and
That's correct,
and the
Vice Chair.
faster that process goes, the faster the improvements.
Yeah, I follow you. When we toured that development, whoever was in charge of things at that time was clearly not up to par. So what you're saying is that now with Akmam, we have new management, new leadership, and maybe things will shift.
That's correct. When we did that tour, and I was with you on that tour, the property manager who was there is no longer there. So a new person was assigned to that location as part of the OPMOM initiative, which is designed to try to address these concerns.
Okay, we'll see.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Bill. Item 6.
Good morning, Raymond Bauer, EVP for Capital Projects. I will be presenting items 6 through 12. Item 6 is requesting the board's authorization to enter into an MOU with the Department of Investigations to establish one or more integrity monitor contracts for use on our Sandy recovery program that I spoke of earlier today. The amount of this MOU will not exceed $10 million. The intent of the integrity monitor is ensure that the restoration, our recovery program can move forward without waste, fraud, and abuse. You may know we actually used an integrity monitor, entered into a similar MOU, and used an integrity monitor through DOI and the OIG's office on our Bond B program, and that has worked terrifically. They have been a partner with us all along in helping make sure that Bond B is as successful as possible. So we want to replicate that success on the Sandy program, so we're requesting the board's authorization to enter into that MOU with DOI.
And is this money going to DOI, or is it going to a contractor that DOI hires?
It will go to a contract that DOI hires. And I should point out that all of the project worksheets that we submitted to FEMA included specifically a line item for this particular service. So this money will not eat into the available construction dollars. This is added on to the construction dollars that are available to us.
So in other words, you're gonna be using funds from all of these things, your capital project, mixed finance, all of that's gonna be in along with FEMA money?
We anticipate that there will be multiple funding sources for this, as there are with all of our FEMA, with our Sandy Recovery Program.
Mm-hmm.
The money could come from FEMA, it could come from the insurance proceeds that I made reference to, it will come, some of it will come from the CDBG disaster recovery funds, so it could come from multiple funding sources. That's the reference to multiple funding sources on the.
But your point was that this was a separate line item when we requested the money in the first place?
Yes, it was.
Just then, okay.
Yes.
I think what concerns me going forward is that when we, have contractors and then they have subcontractors, in the past, it's like the contractor doesn't take responsibility for any fraud or any mismanagement. They pass it off and say it's the subcontractors that's doing that. We're not really liable. And I think that going forward, we need to hold the primary contractor liable for any malfeasance, and then they can in turn hold the people they hired subordinate to them, liable, so that we cut down on fraud. I know personally when we've had contracts in my community, they do some shady stuff.
Yep.
And I've heard, as I said before, when I was over at City Hall and they had the protesters out there, and then some of the workers actually gave testimony that they were not paid their fair salary. L&M was one of those developers that was cited. We need to take a look at, some of the underhanded things that the contractors do.
So I completely agree. Ultimately, the contractor that we are in contract with is responsible, including for the actions of his subcontractors. Working with the IG's office on Bond B has actually helped us reach down into the subcontractor pool and find things, right? The IG's office has helped us find, or has found things that some of our subcontractors on Bond B tried to get away with. that quite frankly, NYCHA would have not been able to uncover if it were not for the services provided through the IG's office and the integrity monitor. And we, as I said, because it was so successful on the bond, I think I've mentioned some of the things that were found as part of the integrity monitor on the bond. We want to just carry that same success forward into the
Okay, I hope so. It's a lot of money, you know, $3
Ray,
billion.
the only thing that I'm troubled with, you said earlier, I don't know if it's not in this meeting, but only the FEMA money can be used for the 33 developments that you, that the authority agreed to, that they needed the stuff. However, you're still using capital, financial, and other funds for that. Maybe some of the other developments could use also. So my thing is, I'm a little troubled by how you can use just FEMA money just for FEMA developments, but you can use all of this other money to go along with FEMA's money.
So let me just be clear, this particular MOU has no money, right, doesn't involve money specifically, it's just simply entering into an MOU with DOI. The funding that will fund this contract comes from FEMA, comes from insurance, comes from CDBG. So it's not, this is not taking money from other sources, from other developments, and investing that money in a Sandy-related item, not at all.
Okay.
Thank you, Ray.
Okay. Item number 7 is requesting the board's authorization to approve a change order on a contract, a Sandy-related contract at Coney Island Site 1B. You may recall this was a last-minute add-on to the conversions, the mobile boiler conversions from fuel oil to natural gas. This one was added on very late to the game. This is the last one, the last contract that is still has work outstanding. The new mobile boiler had to be moved to a different location, and therefore the chimney that we had originally expected to install needed to be extended, and that extra cost is $95,113.36. So we're requesting the board's authorization to approve that change order so that contractor can wrap up the chimney work and complete the work at this particular development. Again, Sandy related, so it's funded by all of those same funding sources.
Thank you, Ray.
Item number 8 is requesting the board's authorization to reject all bids related to a proposed building entrance improvement project at King Towers. This was a city cap funded project that we only received one bidder on. That one bidder did not sign the required letter of assent, so we are requesting that the bids be rejected. We have two options on how to move forward. We will either rebid this project or we will use our CCTV layered access JOC contracts. I had indicated that we might know which route we were going to take by this meeting. We do not have the price yet from the JOC contractor, so depending on what that price is, as soon as we get that price, we will make a decision to either do this work under the existing JOC contracts, in which we could start pretty quickly, or we would have to go out to bid.
Any questions on item 8?
Item 9 and 10 are actually somewhat similar. Requesting the board's authorization to award 2 requirement contracts for electrical repairs at various developments. This is, again, a Sandy-related contract. A few weeks ago or months ago, we had some emergency electrical outages related to the damage that our electrical feeder lines and other electrical equipment in the buildings that they incurred after Sandy. We had to go in there and make repairs through emergency measures. So rather than having to enter into an emergency contracts, we procured 2 requirements contracts. The intent of these contracts is just to have a contractor on board. Should we have another electrical emergency at a Sandy site, we can just simply dispatch these contractors to the location to make the repairs with their already a pre-established contract. Both contracts are with Community Electric, Inc., and both are in the amount of $544,550.
Any questions on item 10?
No, but I'm familiar with the outages that we've had them in my neighborhood,
Yes, you are.
so I've seen them on the ground.
Item numbers 11 and 12 are also related. We're requesting the board's authorization to approve a contract increase or a change order for 2 pre-existing job contracts with Gemco Electrical Contractors, Inc. We're requesting that those two original contracts each be increased by $1.5 million each, for a total value of $3 million of electrical capacity. We are looking to start the Sandy work using these contracts. And one of the first things we want to do is go to the developments that were impacted by Sandy and start to replace the electrical feeder lines that go from the Con Ed manholes in the street to the developments. This is all work that we want to do now, because those feeder lines, as I've indicated before, are starting to fail, especially now as we get into the warmer weather. The load on those lines is going to increase, and we expect more failures. So we want to go in there proactively and start to replace the lines now. None of the work that we are doing today will be impacted by the work that we're doing in the rest of the recovery of the development.
13. Thank you, Ray.
Good morning. Richard Couch, Chief Financial Officer. I'm presenting item number 13, requesting authorization for a change order to a requirement contract number 1228139, award to SJ Fuel Company to provide grade number 2 ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel oil with 2% biodiesel, authorized by Board Resolution 1212-19-3. The change order for an amount not to exceed $10,500,000 is required to accommodate the additional need for fuel at developments where temporary oil-fired mobile boilers had been installed due to damage caused by Hurricane Sandy, and continue to supply various developments in Bronx, Brooklyn, and Manhattan with oil throughout the contract term. The original contract award was determined through NYCHA's July 2012 solicitation to vendors for oil deliveries. The solicitation used NYCHA's historical oil usage and cost to project that NYCHA needed $27,250,000 for 3 barrels for the 3 years. As a result of the impact to many NYCHA developments caused by Hurricane Sandy, a change order of $7 million was approved in May 2013, and another was approved for $45,500,000 in October 2013 to increase the amount of the original contract. Natural gas was not fully restored to all affected developments during the 2014-15 heating season. With that, I request authorization to grant a change order to a requirement contract awarded to SJ Fuel Company for an amount not to exceed $10,500,000.
Okay. Any questions on that? Good. Thank you, Richard. Hey, Velma, turn over to you.
Vice Chair, 13 items were presented for board approval. Do I have a motion to accept?
I make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to.
Okay.
I move that the members be authorized to meet in committee and executive sessions today and on any adjourned or rescheduled future date to discuss tenancy termination proceedings, grievances, real estate, and financial matters concerning the authority.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.